Hey everyone, this is Nidoking back with another video of Sinner, Sacrifice for Redemption. We're nearing the halfway point of the game, so it's time to start fighting the bosses whose sacrifices are actually really going to hurt us. Giving up items, not a big deal. Getting exhausted when you run out of stamina just requires more stamina management. But now that I've defeated all the bosses against which the shield really does anything much, it's time to fight the boss that makes it nearly useless. Yeah, the sacrifice you make to fight Lustful Chanel is that if you guard with your shield until you get staggered, i.e. you run out of stamina, then your shield will break. I don't know whether that makes it completely useless or useful only for parrying from that point. I've never actually had it happen because after I fight this boss I try just not blocking anything. But Chanel is the other boss that's kind of sized about like you are, so it's no surprise you can parry, but you can't riposte. That just basically gives you an opportunity to attack a couple of times. If you're really confident in your parrying ability, you can fight her with the Greatsword or the Blades of Gluttony, but I'm not. I want to know that if I block a little bit early, I will at least be able to reduce the damage I take. The problem is that she also freezes you a little bit with every attack, and if that freeze meter fills up, you turn into a big block of ice. You can't defend yourself or attack in any way, and while you can mash your buttons to try to break out of it, she can freely attack you while you're still frozen and fill your freeze meter back up again. If you're really lucky, she'll just get caught in a pattern of circling around you and never be able to attack you and you can break free. Sometimes it is just a death sentence. But I always try not to let that happen, and go for the parries when I can, because you really don't want to block too much in this fight. Again, when you fight her, your shield is always going to be on the verge of shattering. If she does hit you, she will hit you with the full combo that follows, so you have to start rolling out of the way immediately. I wouldn't try to parry any of the follow-up attacks at that point. You're just going to take the full damage. And then there's this. You can interrupt it by hitting her with an attack item, but honestly I think it's easy enough just to run away from it. The other thing you gotta watch for is when she shoots these arrows at you. If they don't hit you, then they turn into proximity mines on the ground, basically. If you get too close to where one of the arrows landed, it will shoot itself at you just at some random point in the future. And that's going to put you right in the way of one of her combos. And she'll also kick you in the face. Healing is tough here just because she doesn't give you a lot of openings to do it. But once she gets into a combo, if you don't parry it, she will always complete the combo. So you can kind of exploit that a little bit. And that attack you really just want to roll out of the way, I think. That's really about all she's got. You can parry the arrows she shoots at you. I don't think you'll reflect them at her or anything. You just probably stop them from turning into proximity mines, rather than dodging them and then letting them come at you later on. But once you get her down to low health, you want to wait for an opportunity to do as much damage as you possibly can very quickly, because once she hits this point, she's going to transform. It is possible to run her down to no HP before she takes this worm form, and if you do, then the fight is over. If not, then you have to deal with probably one of the grossest fights ever. And, I mean, this is the avatar of lust, of course. So, it's got a giant tongue and spits freezing acid everywhere. Although, I have to say, I've never actually been frozen by this form. I think you can stun it if you hit it with 3 lightning spears in a row, but I wouldn't recommend being too far away from it for too long. just like with pretty much any other large boss, you just want to be behind this thing as much as you can and whack it in the tail. It turns pretty quickly when it starts attacking, though. So, you know, manage your stamina, get ready to roll as soon as it starts doing anything. And keep in mind that as far as I know, this battlefield has no edges. You can't fall off. So, as long as you do still have your auto-regen, if you haven't made the sacrifice that gives that up, the first time I beat it, I spent most of the fight just running away, keeping my distance, waiting for the auto-regen to kick in and give me enough health that I felt comfortable going in for another attack. Here, obviously, I've got plenty of healing available. So, I'm not particularly worried. I do still want to avoid using too much of it, putting myself in too bad a position, but its health goes down quickly enough. It is just kind of a second form of a boss. And most of its attacks are really easy to dodge as long as you can stay behind it. Although, you gotta watch to be actually truly behind it when it's spitting acid, because it spits a surprising distance to both sides. I don't know whether it can actually pick you up in its mouth, or whether the chomps will just do a little bit of damage to you. But in either case, that's the other reason you don't want to be too far from it, because when it flops down on the ground, it's got a really big hitbox. Yeah, I think I can take it out with the spears from a distance, even though they do no damage. And that's another one-try boss that really surprises me. I had a lot of trouble with this one the first time. So again, I guess rather than do a really short video, I'll just try taking on another boss. But something kinda interesting happens when you defeat specifically Chanel, whether you do it first, last, or what. This spirit appears, and you know, I thought it was supposed to be the spirit of Chanel, but the first time you talk to it, it says we've never met before. So, you know, is that Chanel? Is it someone else? I have no idea, but she says that she'll tell you whatever you want to know. She almost never says anything useful, in the least. She makes some reference to the story and the fact that your character is trying to redeem their sins. It's another one of those lore things that I guess could be meaningful, but I don't know what meaning it's supposed to have. Sometimes she'll say things about the bosses, like if you make a sacrifice to one and then go talk to her, she might tell you a hint about them. Sometimes after you defeated a boss, she'll tell you something about the way they were redeemed. But at this point, you know, I hate giving up my healing capability to fight Camber Luce, but this is the least egregious of the 3 sacrifices I have left to make. And this guy is a huge pain no matter when you fight him. So doing it a little earlier is probably for the best. He's got 3 different targets. I always go for the one in the center, the giant mouth on his stomach. And you don't want to run up and start fighting him right away, not just because he chomps you like that, but because this whole field is made of ice, and you might be able to see it back there. Portions of it will crumble away. If you get right up close to him at the start, he's standing on one of the crumbling ice parts, and you'll just immediately die. So you can see here how slow the healing effect is now, and I've only got 5 of them as opposed to 7. But, again, just like any big boss in Dark Souls, you need to be close to this guy as much as possible. Unless he's standing on crumbling ice. The worst part of it is that he's got these really long combos with these blades, and he will spin around quite a lot to track you as you're moving around him while he's in the middle of a combo. Plus, the first hit, when he raises both blades, let's get him to do it here, He pauses for so long before attacking, it's almost impossible to time your roll out of the way. You gotta roll 3 times in a row, usually, which doesn't leave you a whole lot of stamina to dodge the follow-up attacks or to attack yourself afterward. You know, this whole fight is really stamina management. I'd almost say it would be worth doing this one before Yordo, but yeah, I don't want to deal with slow healing while I'm fighting that many guys at once. But it's all spatial management here. Being aware of where he's going to strike when, getting out of the way of attacks that you don't think could possibly hurt you, because they definitely will, and trying to be as close as you can when he spits that acidic stuff at you, whatever it is, because after he's done with that, he'll get tired and you've got an opportunity to attack. Getting tired is a huge pain here. And one other thing to watch for is you've got all these icebergs poking up around the ice. If he hits one of those with his attack, it'll shatter, and it'll spray ice chunks all over the place for a few seconds afterward. And while they don't do a whole lot of damage, they will stun you and put you in range of the attack you were about to dodge. And even after all that, running out of health is not your biggest enemy here. It's always going to be either getting too close to the edge of the arena, or not noticing the ice cracking under you, or trying to dodge out of the way of the attack and falling into one of the ice holes. I'd say the cardinal rule when fighting this guy is always roll 1 time more than you think you have to. If you think you don't need to roll, roll once. If you think you need to roll twice, roll 3 times. I didn't quite get out of the way there, but for some reason I'm still alive, even after having fallen in the hole. I don't know whether that's even his desperation attack, that rolling thing that he does. Basically, he's got the old Asylum Demon style butt stomp where he jumps up into the air and then comes down and damages you even when you think you're out of range. But when he lands, if you're directly behind him, he'll start rolling backwards. And the other issue is if you do manage to get away from him, it's really hard to get close again because those blades reach a lot farther than you think they should. He also rolls over and over and over again, until you manage to coax him into rolling into one of the icebergs. That at least will stun him for a while. So, get him to do that here, and then go in for some attacks. You kinda have to. And I don't know what he just shattered there to make the ice chunks fly around. Retreat is not an option because you're going to die. So, let's give this one final attempt. And you might notice that at some point I swapped back to the straight sword. I don't know whether it's because it's the Blades of Gluttony, but they don't seem to do much damage to him. I think the sword actually does just as much damage. Plus, I can swing it a lot more for less stamina. So, I think even though you are not going to be using the shield in this fight, the straight sword is still generally going to be your best weapon for a lot of these fights. I'd say unless you really need the range of the great sword. And I'm not sure what advantage the Blades of Gluttony have, if any. It is also possible to stun him with a couple of Vivid Lightning Javelins, but you probably want to save those. I actually managed to get in quite a bit of damage there when he went for a roll that he probably should not have done. Yeah, if your timing is off when he goes for that first attack, you're getting hit. I don't think I've even reached his Desperation attack once so far this video, and I've been through this fight so many times by now. Now, I don't know whether the sacrifice you make here slows down your auto-regen at all. That was a very, very near miss. I think I should have died that time. But not gonna complain, just gonna capitalize on his failure to seal the deal a couple of times. Get to a safe distance and then run right into the acid splashes. Not really sure why I would do that. Wanted to try attacking the statues around the area just to see if I could get them out of my way. One of the bosses has obstacles around the field that you can actually hit with your weapons, but in this case, only he can destroy the statues. And I think we're in Desperation territory now. Surprised I actually managed to dodge that one without getting hit. So now he changes up his pattern a bit. For one thing, when he does the grab with his belly mouth, he'll tend to do it twice in a row. And there, he charges up energy. I've never really determined what it is he's charging up energy for. I've never actually seen him unleash any kind of final attack after doing that. But normally he does it for a long time and you get plenty of opportunity to hit him with a lightning spear and interrupt it. That time he just stopped immediately and I don't know why. See if I can lure him over to an iceberg. That one just kind of appeared out of nowhere in his path. I'm grateful. And you always want to dodge to the side when he does the butt stomp. There we go. So now when he does the grabbing motion with his mouth, he does it twice in a row. And hit him with that spear while he's doing that charge attack, and you'll really stun him. Admittedly only enough for one attack, but I think it does a lot of extra damage, that single attack. It is also possible to stun him with just hitting him with your sword while he's charging up, but the spear is going to be safer. I don't know how that missed me. At least evidently he's giving up on trying to roll over me now, realizing that I'm getting out of his path. And we might be able to actually finish the job here. I thought it was going to roll that time. I dodged in a bad direction. And he's just giving up halfway through all of his attacks now. So this is the point where it's easy to get greedy and go for too many attacks. Which I think I did, but it worked out this time. So that's 5 bosses down. 2 more to go, and while I don't think they're necessarily particularly harder than all the other bosses, the sacrifices you make to them would make all of these other bosses much worse. So, I've saved for last the 2 that I think everybody probably wants to save for last. And she still doesn't have anything useful to say. I'm sure she probably said more stuff the first time through the game and just won't repeat herself. This game, I think, was really not made for Let's Plays. You know, if I knew who this character was, I might care a lot more about everything that they're doing, everything that she's saying. I don't. I figure maybe if I look at one of the stones and then go talk to her, she might say something about that boss. But she doesn't. So anyway, next time we'll be taking on the bosses that attack your core attributes. The stuff that you spend most games trying to build up instead of tear down. See you for the first of those next time.